Is Wentz back in the MVP conversation?
I think he may be. And the reason why I say that, the numbers are not outstanding. They don't knock your socks off. Against the Jets, he didn't have to do much yesterday. Basically, a game managed 17 to 29, 189 yards. This brother has not thrown an interception since week 2. A matter of fact, it's the only game this year he's thrown an interception. You're talking about the Eagles leading the league in dropped passes. I think the number is at 12 or 13 and counting. He's been quarterbacking this team without much of a running game, without Deshaun Jackson. Alshon Jeffrey missed a couple of games and what have you. You had a couple of rookies. Nelson Aguilar dropped a game-winning touchdown against the Atlanta Falcons. He should have caught that pass. Whiteside dropped a game-winning touchdown against the Detroit Lions. That would have been a victory. They could easily be 5-0 as we're speaking. And the way that he has been playing and leading this franchise, if the Eagles continue to win with the attention that the Cowboys have garnered throughout the offseason and coming into the first few weeks of this season, Max, if Carson Wentz continues to be effective enough, again, we're talking about MVP caliber conversation.
You and I totally disagree about this.
We're not giving him no edge over Mahomes or Deshaun Watson, anybody like that. But in terms of the conversation, if the Eagles continue to look this way with him, yeah.
You and I totally disagree about this. Look, I think a whole lot of Wentz. I'm sitting here going, if there was no such thing as Patrick Mahomes, we'd be pointing to him. Can he be the next Aaron Rodgers or something like that?
I'd be pointing to Deshaun Watson personally.
But Deshaun Watson's another good pick. But I really think a lot of Wentz. But no. He's not putting up the numbers. He's not winning enough. He's not making great decisions. He's not super accurate. He's not, I see too frequently the team not playing for him, And look, I understand we have to make these grand inferences, right? This is the nature of our job, from small kind of pieces of evidence, small sample sizes. Nevertheless, and sometimes that's at odds with, we're trying to make all the pieces fit. And I'm having kind of that problem with the Eagles because they beat Washington close to open the season. Washington's a disaster. They lose to the Falcons. They lose to the Lions. And then they turn around and they beat the Packers on the road. And then at least for the Jets game, for the first time, they whooped up on a team that they were supposed to whoop up on. When you're barely beating Washington and you're losing to the Falcons, stuff like that, you're like, what is this team? And then that impressive win against the Packers, but actually the Jets win is not nearly as impressive as it looks. I understand the score was wide, but 2 defensive touchdowns. You score 2 touchdowns off of defensive plays. The offense is sputtering. And the offense, who's really in charge of that offense? It's Carson Wentz. I'm sorry, Stephen A. I don't see him. I see him as potentially an MVP caliber talent, but I don't see him as in that conversation.
Well, first of all, we definitely see things differently in this particular notion because I don't see him misfiring on a multitude of targets the way that you do. I see guys dropping passes more than I see him missing targets. But I will come back and ask you a question because you bring this up a lot. Max Kellerman, I want to know where is your evidence when you say, quote, I don't feel like guys play for him. He was 5-6 last year after coming off the injury, missing a run to the Super Bowl. Foles was your backup. He guided you to a Super Bowl. Then he's there as the backup again. When you go 5-6, you're recovering from that nasty knee injury. Everybody knows that. And I know what you're going to defer to in terms of the report by Joe, so I'll leave that to you to bring up.
I don't.
But I'm just saying that I don't see any evidence that the Eagles don't play for Carson Wentz.
First of all, the Nick Foles evidence. And again, we have to make these grand inferences off these isolated pieces of information. But in terms of Nick Foles, it's the same team. Well, coach tried to do less with Wentz or more with Wentz, and that was a problem. And when he tried to do less with Foles, he let the running game take over. It was 2 separate seasons where in each instance the team came alive when you put the backup in. Now, Foles is a little extra that way. Guys really like him. But it highlighted the fact that whether or not they liked Carson Wentz, he wasn't galvanizing the troops, as you would say, Stephen A. And I see it again. I just see a flat team. I don't see a team playing with real identity or passion oftentimes when I watch the Eagles. And I'm sorry I put that on the quarterback. Especially given the reporting that came out about the way the locker room felt about Wentz. And I want to say again, not that he's a bad guy, not that they dislike him, but that he has not yet really learned how to lead that locker room. And I'll mention again also, the things I'm hearing now is he's made strides. And people can see that. They can tell that. But I don't think those strides, I think there are more strides to make still. And then the team will play more evenly than they've been playing.
The only thing I have to say about that is if you have a Super Bowl champion who is your backup, one could imagine that that is the difficulty. It's not about Wentz. It's about the fact that Nick Foles was such a viable option. Now that he's gone and the team is clearly Carson Wentz and nobody else, and they've made that clear with the contract they've given him to validate his significance. There's
you think he
nothing to
played well
debate.
yesterday? Would you think that's good, Wentz?
No, he's
I
much
didn't
better.
think so.
He's much
I didn't think he
better
played
than
well.
that.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.